I was going to therapy like literally every week, and with the therapist, like my literal plan: do not attack her in any way, do not say anything negative about her, like even her character or whatever the case is. And just like that was it. That was the game plan. And we even role played. It's so like demoralizing where like, yes, I did say that stuff, but then like on top of it, like the public is like, this guy's like sick in the head, he's a psychopath.
And we are back with Idris. So, for anybody that's just going straight from part one into part two, okay, you're with Jessica Grace. It's different, I'm assuming, given the fact that she's present, she's making you be present. It's something different for you.
Yeah, yeah, I love her, right? Like, don't get me wrong, like she lights up my world for sure. And like even with like I introduced her to friends and family, or friends actually. My relationship with my parents was a little strained at the time, so initially it was just friends. Um, but even with like my friends, like the interactions were so great that it just she was such a great like addition to my life, and I was like, I love her, and I
But
love
she
this.
lived in Miami and you lived in California.
Yeah, no, she lived in North Carolina actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and so
So long
she
distance.
yeah, so yeah, long distance, but she travels for work. So she was able to visit me like throughout the year. And so she would take on clients in California. And so she would like come stay with me or whatever. And so and again, we made it work. And, you know, she made it like, we would call each other every day, and, we would talk, and so it was something serious. I mean, it was something that I was weighing out, like moving out to like, North Carolina. Um, Part of me knew that if I did, that I would upset my parents, who I was living in California for. But at the time, like I knew I was like, I need to like get on with my life, and which meant like, I wanted to have kids, I wanted to have a family, and so like Jessica to me was that person, like who we can do something with, and she was just like, yeah, she was just like, I just yeah, there was just a lot of feelings around that, but still trying to take it slowly because I was moving across the country. I was concerned, like, if this didn't go like the right way, like, what would I do if like it didn't? And like, I'm just all alone out here.
And were you
But
gonna were you considering leaving your job? You're at Long Beach. Was there like a transfer, or were you just gonna quit your job and go start over somewhere else?
well, since COVID went down, like everyone was working remote,
Oh,
and
got it.
so I got lucky where I was just able to actually go to North Carolina. Actually, yeah, it was perfect timing, and so I still work for that job even today. But yeah, I came here. I actually surprisingly I bought a property before I even moved out here, and she's my real estate agent also.
Mhm.
like so she sold me the property, and then but like we both eventually moved in here, and so this is kind of our home, like we've established over the last couple years or so. And so, we work so well together. Like we are very like goofy, like silly. Like we act like little kids most of the time. Um, and again, with like being little kids and like being vulnerable, like there's a lot of feelings there. So like, I think at the same time we also get hurt really easily too. And so, we were navigating like a lot of things. But most of the stuff was like, how do we interact with people of the opposite sex, like in a lot of like our social environments. And so we had some disagreements around that. I think maybe at the time, like now it's completely different, but like at the time I don't think we had the tools. Like I thought I was good at boundaries, but I wasn't good at like communicating them entirely, or like because boundaries like essentially will always be crossed, or sometimes they will be. I mean, some of the less serious ones are, because it's just some of the main ones like cheating on someone shouldn't be, but like let's just say like the other ones that do get crossed, like some of them sometimes they do. And like how do you communicate what went wrong, or like how do you feel in the moment? And so I didn't know how to do all of that. So that was kind of slow, even though we were growing. Like I still think that we were growing more so than like our arguments were kind of tearing us down. And so, and I loved her. I met her family, and her family was like amazing. They were like so welcoming, you know, very understanding. They're like non-judgmental. It's just like her dad, like every time if we got in an argument, like her dad would sometimes call me and like and would hear my point of view on it. And he wouldn't like, you know, tell me anything. He'd say, you know, I really, you know, I think you're one of the best people that she's met. I really hope you guys work out. And I was just like, man, like, and like he would also tell me sometimes, like he's like, you know, until you put a ring on her, like she's still my like, you know, I still like she's my responsibility. And I'm like, okay, like that's cool. He's like, so if anything happens, you need me to pick her up, like let me know, like give me a call. And so he, I mean, just solid father, you know, like great example of like a father to a daughter. And so, and I loved her relationship with her dad and mom too. Like she's very active in their lives, and so it was just like it was just everything was going like so positive. It's just like there was this one area that kept on like triggering me, and so we went to like, you know, that's kind of where we, you know, eventually were like reached out for this show, which is the ultimatums, because again, Jessica wanted to get married, and I believe like we were on the path to get married. Like even like when we got reached out to the show, we were still in a very heightened, like sensitive area where we could have been broken up, but at the same time, I wanted to get married to her. So it was just like, it's so weird
So
how we were,
she was wanting you to commit to her.
she was, yeah, but I
And
was,
you, because I'm just trying to remember because she gave the ultimatum.
yeah,
Yeah. So, because just to like relate for a second, I mean, I, with my husband, we've been married for a really long time, but before we got married, I was the one bugging, like, I want to get married. Like, what's the holdup? You know?
yeah,
And he was
yeah,
like, I do see us getting married for sure. And I will, but I'm just not ready yet to
yeah,
say it. And I was like, well, that makes me feel shitty because like what else, what more information do you need? And then that kind of put us at odds for a while until but I stopped short of giving him an ultimatum because he was basically like, if you try to give me an ultimatum, like I just won't, you know?
oh, really?
Then I was
Okay,
like, well,
yeah,
I can't give him an ultimatum then, but I can still like bother him about it a lot and cause
yeah,
fights.
yeah,
Eventually,
exactly.
he gave in and proposed. Turned out his main issue was that he just didn't want, he hated everything about the idea of like planning a wedding, having a wedding, all of that stuff. But I was like, I don't care. We can just elope. But it sounds like that wasn't quite your issue.
No, no. Did you guys actually have a wedding though?
We did have a wedding.
Okay, that's
Not a
good.
big wedding, a really small wedding in the Santa
Okay,
Monica Mountains, basically
nice.
Malibu at the Saddle Peak Lodge with like
Okay,
15 of friends and family. That's it. Like a
that's
tiny.
nice. Yeah, I think that's what Jessica wants, something like that. But like on both sides of the country essentially. But yeah, that was not the issue. I was down for having a wedding. There was just like, you know, again, there was the boundary thing. There was also like, I mean, Jessica, I hadn't introduced her to my parents yet, and it wasn't because of her. It was because like this goes way back, but my parents have a strained relationship with my sister-in-law, and because of that relationship, like I've seen how much of a disaster that's been over the years. And so like a lot of that would happen out of like just the way like my brother interacted with my parents, the way you know he introduced my her to like my parents, and just like how like expectations were set on like how to communicate with each other, and so like I like did some like work on it, and I like really wrote down like what do I need from my parents like in this next chapter of my life. And it wasn't just about, you know, Jessica, but it was about like what do I personally need in my relationship with them. And it was like a lot of just, you know, if mom, if you're going to talk to me, like don't talk shit about dad. Like dad, if you're going to talk to me, don't tell me things that you don't like about my brother or his sister-in-law, or like I don't want, you know, just it are there was so much negativity. And again, like I love my parents to death, but they got into like a mode where it was just so much negativity. And I was like, I wasn't, you know, I know a lot of people like, oh, I don't want to hang around with negative people at all. and then just cut people out. But I was like, I'm like, maybe there's a way to do this without cutting them out entirely. So I was like setting like these boundaries. And if a boundary would break, I would like not talk to my parents for like 3 months. And then it happened like, then it was again, and it was like 6 months. And then this latest time, it was like, I was like, if you do it again, like it's gonna be like a year. And it happened, it was like a year. And like after that, everything's good. Everything's good now. I'm not saying like that was the best way to go about it, but honestly, like there was no way for them to change unless there was like some consequences. And for my parents, the consequences are like they don't get to see me, and like they don't want that. And they don't get to see me, not only me, but my brother and then my brother's kids, so we kind of held the line there for a minute. But again, not out of like we don't like our parents, is because like we essentially wanted our parents to be in our lives at their best capacity, right? And that's what we have today, which is like great. I'm not again advising everyone to do that,
Hey,
but
listen,
yeah.
I it didn't work out for me. I tried that, and I haven't spoken to my parents in 20 years, and
Oh
neither has my
wow.
brother.
Okay.
And they're not they decided that they didn't want to try to like do better to have
Yeah.
us in their lives. So I guess they're happy with the no contact thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's like, oh, your parents, you're saying are happy with it?
I think they're fine with it because they never tried, they were never like, oh, this is so hard for us. We'll try to do better.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for you that that worked out.
No, I mean, like, yeah, yeah, I appreciate it. Sorry, for
It's okay.
those.
It's okay. I
Um,
just thought I'd say like, hey, no shame for people. I get irritated by like the people on like, I don't know. I don't know where, Reddit, Instagram, social media people are always there's the school of thought of like those are your parents. You can't
yeah,
like not have them in your life. But like, yeah,
yeah,
you can if it's
yeah,
really negative and it's not serving you.
yeah. I mean, I was open to that fact. Like, hey, if you guys do this again, like, it would be 2 years. And my parents were like, "How can you do that? Like, what if we get hurt or something?" I was like being pretty cold. I was like, "Call 911." And I had family members reaching out to me like, you can't, you shouldn't be doing this to your parents, like you guys don't understand. And like, so, but I mean, again, like we're in a better spot today, which is I'm grateful for.
But so has
um
she still not met your parents though?
no, she, well, not in person, so she has spoken to them now. Which is like, man, like after the reunion she spoke to them, so it's like, I really wished it happened before. But we're dealing with what we're dealing with. And
Okay, so what
yeah.
happened? Like, how did you decide to reach out to a TV show, or did she decide?
So she was like she was in the space before she got reached out for Love is Blind. And so she did go through the interviewing process, but she didn't get cast because of like some technicality. And then like
But she was gonna go do Love is Blind, even though you guys were a solid
so,
couple.
no, so she was gonna do Love is Blind, literally like almost the if she had gone on the show, she would have never met me in Miami, which is crazy.
Oh,
Yeah, it's crazy how that worked out. Um, so we did meet, but anyways, like they reached back out to her because they knew she had a boyfriend now, and then like they're like they wanted to get to know us, and then we were. It was like our story was real because we were having those issues, and we also wanted to get married. So for them, like we went through the interviewing process, like there was like multiple rounds, and then eventually, like we got chosen like pretty much up to the deadline of like when we were gonna film. It was like last year. We filmed around April, so it was like literally like Marchish, like right before that. We found out, and then we had to get ready to go ahead and like get over there to Las Vegas. And so yeah, I like what brought us to like let's do the show. I mean, again, I've been sober for a while, and like I thought like what's the worst that could happen, right? Like literally what's the worst? I mean, I feel like I'm a stand-up dude, and like I don't know, I don't see how this could go any way wrong. Like I'm not gonna like one, I'm not gonna cheat on her, even though the show's like, you're gonna break up with your significant other on the show, you're gonna go date other people. Like I personally, like whether she does or not, like that's out of my control, but I'm not gonna do anything. The plan was like to get married at the end or get engaged, and then go like wait until the show comes out, see how the show like looks, and then like from whatever I gather from it, then get married. That was the whole plan. It did not go like that at all. Absolutely at all. And so I am like absolutely like I don't know if I'm devastated, but it just feels like surreal, like what has happened and like transpired since. One being on the show and like how that panned out, because a lot of people like the interpretation, and like again, I take my sobriety pretty seriously, but not like like I didn't go on the show and say everyone like I'm sober. Like I kept it very low key on the show. And so I didn't even tell any of the producers really. There was a scene where I actually went on a date to a wine bar, and it was the first time I disclosed it because they were trying to get me to drink the wine. Actually, it was a date with one of the girls, Haley, and she just kind of like said, like, what's going on? Like, why don't you drink? And I was just like, yeah, I just been sober. And she's like, how long? And I'm like, 16 years. And she's like, what? She's like, what the fuck? Like, she's like, how old are you? If you're gonna be sober for that long. And that's another thing, being like the oldest there, and like, you're trying to date these people, but like they put you like you're only able to date whoever's like willing to date you. So, I got paired with like some of the youngest girls on there, and part of me is like, I just need to continue the process because to try to get to the end. And like, but again, it was like, yeah, there was some difficulty with some of the age gap.
So from
Um,
watching it, it's funny. It's so funny talking to you because from watching it, I did feel, and it made more sense when I realized that you were sober, that it wasn't that you were like high or obviously, but or completely uninterested. It was you were probably a little bit like shut down. Like, what am I supposed to do? Try to seduce these women? Like, I'm not going to cheat. So
yeah.
what is there to do besides just sort of go along with it? I'm assuming that's where you were more coming from.
Yeah, I was definitely trying to be just like silly and just like have a good time. And like, yeah, I wasn't like they would, sometimes it would be like bringing up sexual topics. Like you'd have to talk about like they would like each time we went on different levels of dating, they wanted us to dive deeper into the conversations. And I would there would just be certain things that kind of go like kind of skirt around or whatever. And but yeah, I mean most of it was just being honestly, I wish they showed a lot of scenes, but it was mostly just being silly and just like goofy, and just trying to go with the flow of things. And so that's why like there was a scene with Haley and I, and like I'm saying, like at that point I already knew who I was gonna choose, but like it wasn't Haley, but like but hey, I pulled Haley off to the side. I was like, let's just want to talk to you, and like I say something like, oh, I just want to look at you, and it comes off like super creepy. But like to me and Haley, we were like already messing. We already had this relationship where like we were just messing with each other, and she's like laughing. She's like, I'm laughing at you, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like that's tough. But like at the end of that conversation, I was like, I could be your dad technically, right? And so like, and
She
so
was really young.
yeah. But that's the thing is like, I was literally like having like just being silly with everyone, and but it came off like, especially with the beginning, because I think the first line I say was about like something physical about Ashley, and I'm like, oh, are you serious? And then there was something physical I said about Alex, but I mean, those are like questions that everybody was prompted to like say, like every single person in the cast was asked, "Hey, what'd you think about so and so, like physically or whatever?" And so, but like for some reason, mine were the ones that were used in that time, and like even I'd said something like I said bosom, which I was trying to be as PC as possible, but even that came off kind of slimy, and I'm like, damn, that's terrible. So like the whole like if again from my third party perspective, if I were to see it, it's like Idris comes on this show, he's talking about people physically, like that's his first like intro, and then from there he's like dating like 23-year-olds, and he's coming off kind of creepy. I'm just like, okay, this is not how I like see myself, even like but then like the that compounded with so the again, like what happened on the show, we were put in this situation where we had to exit early. And in that exit, what happened was that I misinterpreted the situation. Um but what like in hindsight, I feel like what I could have done is like essentially what happened was that everybody had picked and chose who their person was going to be, and Jessica and I were like the last people like there. And as a result, the host came out and they're like, they talked to Jessica. They're like, hey, so what are you going to do? Are you going to leave here without Idris? Or like they looked at me, Idris, like, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm like, are you guys like prompting me to do the ultimatum? And it was like, to me, that was like, there was no preparation. It was super sudden. And I just like, as a person who's like sober and like who still gets emotional at times, who's like still pretty sensitive, like, and it had been a long, period of filming, that I just like, I got in a lot of like fear and anger. And I was just like, dude, like, and like when that usually happens, like my go-to is like, I need to protect someone. And like, and it was like Jessica and at the time, because I was like, we're leaving the show and like they're asking me to like either like pretty much like, reject her now. Like I'm just like, what's going on? Or like get engaged. And so my thing was like, I'm gonna get engaged anyways. So I was like, let me go ahead and do it now. So I was like, I grabbed the ring and like I was like, I'm gonna like, will you marry me? And I, at the time, like like I wish I could have said more, but I was like on my last breath at the moment. And I just was like, I was like shaking. I was like, let's get the hell out of here because I have no idea what's going on anymore. And so that was like its own thing. And then like we came home though, and we tried to go through like therapy, and there was like just a lot of things that we still, not a lot, but just still in the same issue we had. And we eventually like we broke up, and again, like at that point, like I blame still I didn't see it in hindsight, but in my mind, like, Jessica was saying things to me that I felt like she was just like, our trust was just so broken. And we were at that point where like we were kind of stacking who had done what. Like, I felt like she wronged me X amount of times and she felt like I, wronged her X amount of times. And so we had
But
this
this
just
didn't
like,
have to do with the show. This was just going
no.
back to your original issues.
Yeah, so when we came back, there's definitely like when you're on a show like that, emotionally, like you're on a high, and then so when you come home, it's you hit this like huge low, and like I anticipated the low, um, and like so I processed that differently than Jessica, where I was like going to talk to like my friends in recovery and just like a bunch of other people to just get those feelings out, but Jessica like at that time, like she didn't have anybody to really talk to about this because it was just like, how do you talk to people about this show? And like, and something did happen on the show where, like there was a girl on the show that like that I got close to, and like, but like, again, it was for the sake of the process to move forward, but I did like let some guard down. And so we did open up and there was just like some feelings that were shared. So I actually like, it was definitely like something that, not something I wanted to like explore, but I wanted to be upfront about it with Jessica. And so I told her about it and she took it in a way where she thought I was throwing it in her face and like trying to make her feel a certain way, which I wasn't. I was just trying to come clean. But I didn't, I feel like, it's a kind of a cop out to just, just be honest and not like be sort of graceful around it and like be like kind of comforting, because I thought like if I just give her the information, that's good in itself. But I, looking at that, like that was poor judgment on my end to just think that she would be fine with that information. So like that it was the issue then was like when it came to the like I always wanted to separate our emotions and just kind of us to dive into like it separately so that we don't like I was scared that we would come home and we would just like we would fight each other for our lows and just blame each other for the problems or whatever. But like, nowadays, like we should have come together. We should have been more vulnerable. We should have spoken to each other more. I mean, I should have personally done that. I should have been more open about things. I should have like comforted her more. I should have been more validating to her. Like there was so much that there was so many missed opportunities there. And so like so when we went to therapy, I couldn't see her point of view. I was just focused on my point of view. I was just like I felt so wronged, and it was just so much defensiveness, and so the only solution to me like meant it was like a mental block for me where I was like I need to break up with her because there's no way we're gonna move forward. It was just like just this huge block in my mind. It didn't even make sense for us to even be in a relationship. And so that's why, like, on the reunion, where like I talk about, like, in a vulgar way, like, which I apologize for, is that what I was trying to get at was that even when we try to break up, like, we end up sleeping with each other, and then, like, I said, like, I regretted it instantly because mentally I felt like so, like, unsafe and messed up in the relationship. But again, that's on me, and that was a very low blow, and I shouldn't have said that. But again, that's how I felt in the moment.
I
But
mean, I
moving,
know you feel
yeah,
bad,
yeah,
and I said this to you before I even hit record, but
yeah,
it to me it doesn't come, I mean, so much worse shit happened on that show. Like those other people, there people are getting arrested after like the show and their relationship. Like I'm not going to name any names, but I mean, there was some like way worse stuff than you basically saying like, yeah, in a more vulgar way, like, yeah, we had sex. I mean, you guys were back together.
yeah,
Like it wasn't that bad. I just feel like I think maybe because, well, when I reached out to you, I hadn't even watched the reunion part, but I'd watched the rest of it.
yeah,
But I'd read some stuff online, and then when I watched it, I was like, you're hard on yourself, is all I'm trying to say, because
yeah.
you were the one who was you were very honest, it felt like, through the whole thing. Like, and I
True.
read that from you, and then in trying to take responsibility, or I hear you saying like, yeah, I could have handled this better, I could have handled that better, but you sound mature to me.
Thanks. Yeah,
Obviously working out. I mean, all relationships have issues, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree. It's just like, it's weird because had the reunion not happened the way it happened, like, I don't think we would have actually even reconnected. Maybe, I mean, there's a possibility we wouldn't have, like, spoke afterwards, because it was so painful that almost, like, my ego completely was shattered. Hers, I think she still had some of hers too. She was, like,
You guys
definitely,
were
like,
split up. You go
yeah.
back to film the reunion, and it's how many months later?
It had been, like, I mean, like, 10, like, imagine you're broken up and you just see your ex for the first time in, like, 10 months.
Wow. Okay. So that's
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah, and you have all these emotions, and you just throw them at each other.
Right.
We didn't have a talk before. And then my reasoning for not having a talk too is, like, I felt like if I did talk to her, I would be controlling, right? Because I'm, what am I talking to her ahead of time, is because I want her to not say what her piece or whatever. So I actually didn't want to play a role in whatever she wanted to do. And like, and so, like, I thought I was allowing her to say whatever, but people were like, man, you should have probably talked to her before. Cause like that was like that was a lot to deal with.
But did you run this by? Because what I love is that you have sober people in your life. Do you
Yeah.
run stuff by people? Because it sounds to me like you work a pretty active program.
Yeah. No, I did. I was going to therapy, like, literally every week, like, seven. I had 7 sessions prior. And, like, in with the therapist, like, my literal plan was, like, do not attack her in any way. Do not say anything negative about her, like, even her character or whatever the case is. And just, like, that was it. That was the game plan. And we even role played. like and, like, I went to so, and so, like, it's so, like, demoralizing, where, like, yes, I did say that stuff, but then, like, on top of it, like, the public is like, this guy's, like, sick in the head, he's a psychopath. Like, I'm just like, dang, I really, really tried. And, like, even I'm still going to therapy afterwards. Like, it was not like I just stopped. Like, I told my therapist, like, what I said, and they were like, they're like, yeah, it's pretty bad, but, like, it's not the worst thing. Like, you didn't
It's
attack her.
not.
Yeah, you didn't like go after her or anything. But yeah, again, there's people who are gonna write me off, and I understand it triggers people. And, like, I don't condone that. I think one of the things is, like, why am I so hard on myself? It's just like, it's hard. I guess it's difficult. I guess I can take being hard on myself, but at the same time, it's just Jessica taking me back is like, she's getting all this, like, stuff now too. And I'm not saying I should still be hard on myself, because I feel like I do need to, like, love myself to a certain degree so I could love her and support her. but like just seeing that backlash for her, and like just people think like she's just like a like just calling her all sorts of names and like insulting her and saying that
Like reality
yeah,
TV though. These are like people that people get so like think they know what people's
yeah,
actual lives are like, you
I
know?
know.
And Ultimatum's not even that big a show. Like, sorry to say, but it's
No, it's not.
it's like a smaller show of these
Yeah.
Netflix shows, you know. But I swear, every single because I've watched every season of Love Is Blind, and you get so caught up in like, but you see a fraction of what there is to see of people's lives, and then you make your determination, and I mean, it's gonna fade.
It'll fade, yeah,
They're
it'll
gonna
fade.
forget very quickly and move on to the
Yeah,
next show.
yeah, I agree. There's still that, like, weird feeling, though, it's like, when I see someone in public and they notice me, like, are they, like, on the, "Hey, what's up?" Like, I just wanna get to know you side, or like, "Hey," like, because 'cause I've gotten some threats, and so yeah, which is kinda wild, but, like, yeah, I feel like there's some people that might be a little standoffish. Some person took a picture of us at a restaurant and like and then created a Reddit thread and like
Oh.
just like everyone was tearing us down. I'm just like, all right, all right.
So you come back, you feel bad about like saying what you said on the show, but then you come back. Did you guys talk right after or did you fly home?
So I talked to a couple friends. I was in a bad shape. I I was like just I wasn't like there was two like after what happened, there was like two things I could do. I could be really pissed off at Jessica or like really sad about like what had happened. And like I chose to stay in the sadness area because I just was like, why would I get mad? Because and so I just was like very sad. I was like crying. I was pretty low. I was like honest with my friends how low I was. Like I was honestly just as low as I had ever been in my life. Like or just the way I compare it was like almost to the time where I almost entered rehab. It was so I felt so bad. And and I remember so like I talked to my friends, I was like, should I call her? And they're like, no, it's people are it's gonna come off weird or something. And then yeah, just one of my friends was like just pep talk, like giving me a good pep talk. Like he's like, screw it, it doesn't matter, none of this shit matters. And then so I came home, then I went to my therapist. And even after telling my therapist, she's like, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea for you to call her either. And then like for some reason, I just like was compelled. I was like, "Hey," and I texted her. I was like, "I think we need to talk." And like I think it was like 2 days went by, and she finally responded. And she was definitely like apprehensive. She was like, "If we're gonna talk, like, it's gotta be in public. It's gotta be like recorded." I was like, "What?" I was like, "This isn't a deposition, like." like and she was like she was it was funny because then I didn't respond. I think I said I'm not gonna do the recording, but I was just like okay, so I'm cool with being in public or whatever. And she's like, cool. And then I said she said something about something else, and I made a joke, and then she like was like it was like funny to her. She called me, and we were laughing a little bit, and then she hadn't heard my voice like since the reunion, and she was sad, and I was like, I just didn't say anything, and she's like, when do you want to meet? And so we're like, okay, and we met later that day, but yeah, so she the way I describe it is like, dude, we always have love for each other, like even in like the most craziest moments. And she's like, you want to pick me up? I was like, sure. She's like, all right, well, let me get pretty first. And I was like, all right, dude, like, come on, dude. And but like, no, but it was sweet. And so picked her up, and like it's almost like again, like we will always love each other. Like, so I took her to this like food hall, but we never even went in the food hall. We just we didn't initially, but we just hung out in the car, and it was just like it just started. We just started. She started talking a little bit, but then I started talking, and then we were just like bawling. There was a lot of tears, and I was like apologizing for like how I handled the end of the relationship. Like part of me was like, the only way it would work is like for the breakup is if I just was like super cold and like I just kept her at a distance, and like looking at it in hindsight, like maybe part of that was still true, but like I could still like apologize for how it essentially made her feel. And so like part of me that never really registered is like I can apologize for how something makes someone makes me feel or make someone feel, but still not personally agree with like how like my point of view, or like disagree with how I felt about it. So I started to like just take ownership for from like the end of the relationship, like all the way to the beginning, like where I had gone, where things had gone wrong, and that was not my intention. My intention was just to like one, she had some like very pointed language, during the reunion, some like these like buzzwords, and I was like, what were those? And so I wanted to get some more, information on what she meant by that.
Mm-hmm.
And so she gave me some of her definitions, and a lot of it was just like a lot of it like just revolved around how she felt like mistreated, like through like she considers it stonewalling. It was like I consider it just taking time for myself. But in hindsight, was I purposely trying to punish her or hurt her by not talking to her? It was just like I felt so hopeless that every time we'd talk, it was like we nothing would get across, like nothing, like then like the something else would happen. But anyways, we just kind of went through that, and so like by the end of it, like we just I don't know if it's like we fell in love again, but like it almost like everything like became like it was like clean slated, and like we started, it was like a whole new like relationship. And it was like, hey, what do you like, let's go get some food. And so we hung out, and we didn't like get physical that day. But like we literally talked from that moment on, like for like 24 hours. We stayed up late that night just talking, and we went to bed for a little bit, and then we woke up the next day. We literally were just talking nonstop. um which was like which was difficult, but just being able to sit with her and stay with her, it was just like kind of like it brought us together. And I don't know if that, like, people are like, oh, they're trauma bonding. And so even though like while our relationship has gone on a different basis and we're getting like stronger and like we're being more honest, more vulnerable, we are still doing therapy. I'm doing personal therapy. She's doing therapy. We're going to do couples counseling again. We want to make sure as we ride this out, because also once this show does fade, there's going to be a whole nother, even though this is negative attention, like, there's going to be this whole different like depression there too, like this kind of low where like we're not getting attention anymore. So like, how does that make us feel now? And so it's just navigating through these next stages as we like progress. And
You're so
what,
honest.
yeah, I appreciate it. So, but like the one thing that's gone very, very well, which, I thought it would be difficult, and it still is a, lifelong amends, but was her parents, just making the amends with their parents, which just happened last weekend. And so like it's literally like we haven't skipped a beat. I did have to own up to a lot of stuff. But I was happy to do it, especially for Jessica and like just the love I have for her and like what I want for our future. So
It's like pretty amazing. So would you consider yourselves re-engaged or not yet? You're just working on
not yet. No, I mean, like, it's definitely like we're talking about it. We're talking about like where the wedding's gonna be and stuff, but we know it's like, okay, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but I think we're just better equipped this time. And so I'm more confident around that we can get through anything. Um, More so than like, yes, like there are reasons why she wanted to get married soon. Is because like she wanted her dad to walk her down, and like her dad's doing well now, but I don't know if you remember the show, but he has episodes of cancer, his cancer coming back. And like, God forbid that like, that day does happen, but she just wants to make sure he can walk her down someday. So
it.
yeah, so
Well, I think that you seem amazing to me. I don't you're amazing.
thanks.
You're like, I think it's really inspirational the way you talk about your sobriety. I mean, you as a sober person with about the same amount of time as you have, my sober day is May 22nd, 09.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're probably pretty
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
I I hear like real work, and that's the thing that's really hard, and that's like I think a lot of people don't do well after they do reality shows because it's what you're talking about. I don't think they have an understanding that, like, oh, you get all this attention.
Yeah.
Just also speaking as a person who, like, I had a whole TV show that I was the host of for 2 seasons, and it is a real thing that you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm the star of a TV show. Like, I'm on a very big show, and there is a come down from that, and there
Oh yeah.
is like an adjustment for your ego. And but you know what? You're more equipped to do it because you're a sober person who has that kind of support. And I think for a lot of people, like just straight talking sobriety, I think the biggest part for me is the, fourth step. It's the taking account of your own character defects and being able to have your ego be able to handle going, yeah, this is what's wrong with me. It doesn't make me a horrible person. It just means that here's some stuff that I still work on.
Yeah. Yeah. The ability to like look at myself objectively, like all the
Yeah.
time. And like even like that's why like for me, this has not been easy, but like people hating on like whatever the interpretation of me is, it's like that's fine. Like I can agree with that from your perspective for sure. It's just like, but it's not that's not who I really am, you know? And so um but yeah, just being able even like still the reunion that was terrible of me to do or say, um it could be an example, right? I can be used as an example for what not to do, or at least prepare for that. You know, you could be under a lot of pressure from the show, and no matter how prepared you are, like you could something could go wrong. So it's just
But you also had a human emotion of which you were talking to me about a little bit before. But if you, when you're mad and you hadn't talked ahead of time, so it's not like you were prepared for what she was going to say. I mean, you're a human person that's going to have a reaction, and that was the reaction. It's not like you started throwing shit and swearing and like stormed off the stage. It's like you
yeah,
had the reaction you had, and people need to calm down. That's all.
yeah. I mean, that's not for me to say, but
Yeah, that's
I
for I'm saying it. I'm saying it.
okay.
People can be mad at me. But anyway, I think and you talking about it and talking about your sobriety and sharing about your real feelings about it. Like, I don't blame her one bit for, being in a relationship with you. You seem like a great guy. And I
That's
just really appreciate you coming on here. And I appreciate you, like, and again, for anybody that didn't listen to part one, tell us where to find you.
yeah. You can find me at e scissors man, which is my Instagram handle, or e scissors dude, which is my TikTok handle.
And
So
you're still at your same job, doing your thing.
yeah, I'm doing that, but also, so I started a company with a few close friends, a few therapists that I know, and so what we've gone ahead and done is create a platform. And I'm not the therapist. I'm not the one who's actually doing the care. Just wanted to give a caveat there. But we do have like professionally licensed therapists and certified addiction counselors that are working together to actually provide services or virtual outpatient for people who need it. And so again, like we think we're a little bit more unique than your other virtual or like your telehealth because again, you get therapists once a week and you get counselors like on a daily, which I know from personal experience that I drank every day, so I needed someone to kind of keep tabs on me on a daily basis. So again, we have this platform where people can help you for essentially if anybody needs that care.
And is it
So
is it directed mostly at people with substance use disorder, or is it just anybody who's suffering from mental health issues?
it's specific for substance use disorder.
Oh,
So
very cool.
yeah.
What's it? So what's it? What's the website?
Oh, that one's gonna be sobioapp.com.
Sobio, spell it out
Yeah,
for me.
SOBIO and
Okay.
then AAPP.com.
Okay,
So
very cool.
it's real about it's real people. A lot of people I think are confusing it with it some maybe being AI. There's a lot of like AI advancements in this, in this day and age, but I think that doesn't really touch the human aspect yet, especially when it comes to recovery. And so these are real humans that are going to help, people just on a like telehealth format.
I love that. Okay, I'm going to put that in the description of the episode. And God, I hope to stay in touch with you. You're awesome.
Yeah, for sure, Stephanie. Like, thanks
Okay.
again for having me. Thanks for
Thanks
allowing me to share
everybody
my
for
story.
listening. and see you next week. Bye.
Life is good, yeah. Life is good.